Now commence the Power Panel 4, which is on the future of commercial vehicles. May I now invite on stage our eminent speakers for the session. May I please invite Mr. Jalaj Gupta, Head Commercial Vehicles Mahindra Group, Mr. Nishant Arya, Vice Chairman IBM Group and Chairman Linde Wayman GmbH, Mr. Sanjeev Kumar, President MHCV Ashok Leyland, Mr. Sachin Nichwahan, Chief Operating Officer Switch Mobility Limited, Mr. Sharvik Shah, Chairperson FADA Rajasthan, and our session moderator Mr. Rajiv Saharia, co-founder of Premon Asia. May I request all our speakers for the session to kindly join us on stage, please. Requesting our speakers to kindly join us on stage, please. May I request everybody else to kindly take your respective seats or join the session of your choice in Jahangir and Mamtaz Hall. I'd like to request everyone to please settle down at Darbar Hall, and others who are interested for the panel sessions may kindly join the respective session in the other halls. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to our eminent speakers and session moderator. I'd like to now hand it over to Mr. Rajiv Saharia, session moderator, requesting him to kindly moderate the session on commercial vehicles.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Just to set the context right, I think we're running a little behind and probably we can't hear you. Hello? Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Just to set the context right, I think we're running a little behind schedule, and this panel probably is the last panel that stands between the bar and us. So we'll try and wrap it up as quickly as we can. But nonetheless, it's a very interesting topic that we have, that is the future of the commercial vehicle industry and how the relationships between the dealers and the OEMs are going to evolve in this area. Primarily, I think the CV industry has always been looked at as a lead indicator to the status of the country's economy. And therefore, it suffers from the fact that it can't really predict which way it's going to go because there are no lead indicators available to the CV industry itself. From that perspective, when we look at the projections of the Indian economy, and we know that globally it's one of the most promising economies in the next couple of years, and stated objectives of getting to $5 trillion economy in the near future. All this is going to augur well for the commercial vehicle industry, and it'll have a direct impact on it. So the future obviously is robust. It may not be linear as we get there. We might have our hiccups as we want to get there, but I think it is robust. And at this point, I'd like to invite panelists, starting with Sanjeev, you, because you lead the medium and heavy commercial industry in Ashok Leyland, and that's one that bears the biggest brunt of the growth and the degrowth as and when it happens.
Thanks, Rajiv. I think before I talk about CV industry, we should talk about India. My sense is that, India is going through what US has seen and what China has been seeing for the last 3 decades. I think last few years have been great for India, and we are in the process of creating this huge network in terms of rail network, road network, ports, and even connecting all small cities. So this is actually not taking a firm shape, and government is talking about this logistic costs. Today our logistic costs are very high. We are at 14% when compared to overall 8% worldwide. And now we are talking of something called Gati Shakti. So my own sense is, all these actions which government is taking in terms of creating those infra, it's going to help our CV industry. So yes, in terms of demand, I see robust demand for our trucks and buses. Second thing which is important for this industry at this juncture is in terms of how different kind of fuel technologies are coming up. We have seen in the past how India moved from BS3 to BS6 in span of probably 4 years. So we as as an industry, I would say, we are now getting ready in terms of all the options available with us, whether it is LNG technology, hydrogen, electric vehicle. So these technologies are available, but the major challenge is how you're going to go through this cycle, when this change will happen. So my own sense is it's not going to be easy, and it will depend a lot in terms of ecosystem, how this ecosystem is getting created, how government policies are being framed, and this will decide the future of CV industry. But as a manufacturer or as an industry, we need to be ready with all the options. But overall, yes, I think, as you mentioned, that CV industry is the right indicator of how country is progressing. So yes, I think we are in good space. Thank you.
That's an interesting perspective, especially coming from the medium and heavy section. Jalaj, what's your take on what's happening in the light commercial, and how's that going to go? Thank you.
So thanks, Rajiv. Firstly, heartiest wishes to everybody on Makar Sankranti, Lodi and Bihu. So, and coming to your question, not only LCV, I think if you look at the overall Indian CV market, 19 was the peak when the overall CV did 10 lakh plus vehicles. And if not this year, definitely in F24, it is slated that the CV industry will cross that 10 lakh peak. And all this is buoyed by what Sanjeev just said about the huge money that has been pumped into the India infrastructure story. Coming specifically to light commercial vehicles, I think the majority of the Indian growth is driven by the tier 2 cities, the rural areas, etc. and all that. And the more that happens, the more it augurs well for the LCV and the ICVs. And so overall, if you ask me, how does the future look like for overall Indian CV market? We are India's 5th largest market in the world today. Now, very few people, because we talk about, 3rd largest as a car manufacturer in terms of car market, but we are 5th largest. So we are 5th largest economy. We are the 5th largest CV market, in the world. So if you ask me future, to me, it looks extremely bright, at least for next couple of years. Just one trivia. So I was speaking to one of our customers. He's a NHAI A category contractor, and he gave me a figure. He told me that about 10 years ago, when the outlay of NHAI used to happen, 25,000 crore used to be a typical outlay for 5 years. 5 years outlay, 25,000 crore of NHAI. F22, which last fiscal, the actual projects allocated to contractors were 1.15 lakh crores. So that's about 20 times. So that's the kind of money that is being pumped into various projects, in India. So future to me looks extremely good, at least for next couple of years.
Wonderful. I think one thing that sets the commercial vehicle industry apart from the rest of the automotive industry is the fact that the nature of this business of the dealerships and the way the customers are engaged with is extremely different. And it varies across the spectrum based on either the size of the customers or their fleet. So you have buses like yours, Mr. Nijavan and Mr. Arya, who don't rely so much on external network partners. You can be completely independent. Whereas in case of Mahindra's as well as Ashok Leyland's, a network becomes the core strength of going forward. It's important to understand over here as to how the dealers look at it and what the dealer's perspective on the relationship with OEMs in this is, and who best to give us that view other than Sharvik, because Sharvik, you've been handling dealerships across the spectrum from passenger vehicles to light commercial vehicles to medium and heavy, being one of the largest Ashok Leyland dealers around. So what's your view on this, and how do you think the relationship between the OEMs and the dealers will shape up in the coming time?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. So, the nature of our business is more, unlike car or other industry, we are more B2B. And that's where, our relationship with our customers is very important in terms of how we understand their business operations and then give them the product and services based on their need and their requirement. Now, here it is also important because our customers don't operate in a limited area. They would work across the country. So there has to be a very strong dealer network. I'm saying you need to have the right service network across their area of operations. Besides that, please understand that over the period of time with technology and with the regulations that are changing in the country, today cost of initial cost of vehicles is going up. So they squeeze us tremendously in terms of their after sales, which is again a very important factor, which is a very important deciding factor for them to buy our products. Now, while we want to focus more on service, we don't get the kind of revenues that usually a car industry gets. Our investments are higher because for trucks, you need bigger workshops, you need bigger bays, you need more skilled people because there is a lot of abuse that goes into these vehicles because it's a truck driver who's driving it, his knowledge is very low. So we need to work on a lot of aspects in terms of keeping the right kind of inventory, keeping in the right kind of, training the right kind of manpower, which again is a very scarce commodity for us. And also, meeting the expectation of our customer because he is actually creating a balance sheet of every vehicle that he is running. And now with the way the logistic costs are, their freight rates have not gone up the way the prices of products have gone up. So they expect us to have a better turnaround time. So we need to invest on more bays. So I think overall, unlike a car industry, the CV industry and the CV customer is much more demanding to the dealer. And here, that's where the OEM needs to support the dealership in the right kind of training and the network that is required here.
Thanks. I think that's very well articulated, Sharvik, and it makes me think about the complete different end of the spectrum, and that is the buses which Switch Mobility is kind of getting into. What is your take on this? Because you have very limited beats in your vehicles, and you're getting into markets which are very niche, into specifics. And obviously, you will probably still need some network or some kind of a support. What's your take on setting up this network, and how will the relationships with dealerships evolve for an application and a new product like yours?
Right. Thank you very much. Good evening to all. I think at Switch, we are in a very sweet spot. Why I'm saying so is, on one side, we are into a segment which has a huge potential, and we have heard from everyone, and we know that EV is going to grow. We all have, I mean, Nishant will also vouch for it, we all have touched with good orders for next 1-2 years to take care of ourselves. And on the other side, Switch being wholly owned subsidiary of Ashok Leyland, we do not have to worry much about channel partners because we have people sitting next to us like him all across the country. So what we are doing is, in our bus, which are mostly the gross cost contract models, we take per kilometer basis and do the everything as far as bus is concerned. Service piece of it from day one, we are keeping with our dealers. So wherever we are getting orders, we are getting the service done through our dealers. They employ the manpower at the location or at the depot. So they are already getting hang of what EV industry is. When we'll come to our LCVs in future, which definitely will be sold through the dealer network, it will be through our channel of Ashok Leyland. I mean, if there is somewhere we need to go out, we do not have a dealer, then only we'll go out. Also, what we believe is that the spare parts and the revenue on the service side, because the chassis and many parts are common with our Leyland products. So it becomes much easier for us to manage if we do this entire service piece through our dealers. So we only keep the operations, which is the driver providing of drivers and all outside the preview. Rest all we are doing in-house. When we'll bring our LCV, we are not going to ask our dealers to build new brick and mortar showrooms. No. We already have beautiful showrooms. We already have beautiful workshops. What we will request them is to invest more in demo vehicles, because one of the speakers previously you heard must have spoke about it, that we need to give a demo to a customer so that he hops onto a EV, LCV or a car to say. So our investment will be more on that side, on the demo side and on the training of people. And obviously some infra will be required at the workshop to cope up with the EV servicing piece. Apart from that, it will be more on customer facing activities which we will do, and products will be I must say, we have no option, but products will be supplied once the orders are received, rather than there will be huge stocks at the dealership. For simple reason, supply chain is still a constraint for EV specifically, and products are pretty expensive, so we will not want to burden our dealers with inventory, putting money in the inventory, rather put money in the demo vehicles, go out, do the activities, and then generate the business and go forward. So that will be our strategy.
Very interesting, two different spectrums of the network model that you've spoken about. I'll come back to this one that you spoke about in the second part about the profitability of the dealerships and reducing their burden on inventory. But before that, I'd like to bring Mr. Nijavan in as to what are your views, because you are getting specific into the buses segment. And has this been like a low entry barrier for you because you really didn't need a network? And how do you look at network being a partner in rolling out your businesses?
So I think, so we do have a network across for 1S and 2S activities across the board, but I think as things are evolving, I would say dealerships of the future, especially for electric mobility and in the public transportation space, would be totally transformed, because the role technology would play would be very large here, because remote diagnostics as well as the role of power electronics and embedded systems has increased substantially in the electric vehicles, and that's what we look forward to doing, is that how dealerships view the spare part business or the service business would be entirely different. And in certain cases, we are looking at the AMC models where it's a combination of service and spares which they could bundle up together for working with customers. And on the other hand, whilst they're doing this, they're also looking at seeing that how training and awareness for the customers is also an important part in this case, what we have been able to understand. And thirdly, when you're looking at DC-DC converters, you're looking at battery packs, you're looking at chargers, you're looking at motors and many other areas. So 90% of the activities rather move to the electronic and high-end power electronics space in the EV space, especially for electric buses where we go up to 1,000 volts of current in this scenario. And the customer is not looking for immediate quick fix kind of a solution. The customer is looking for a long-term perspective of 10 to 12 years. Like today, we are working with multiple customers in the private space. And when we do that, they say that they do have no clue what would happen, and they're actually looking for dealers and partners locally in all geographies who can work with them and give a holistic end-to-end solution. And just to give you some stats, so today when I look at my battery pack, I have 1.2 million data points which come out every single day from every single bus. And if I look at the whole bus, it's about 2.5 million data points which I get. So understanding such kind of data points, having NOC centers, network operating centers, understanding and seeing that how are they working with customers, and they're looking for local round-the-clock support in terms of spare parts, the kind of know-how in terms of skills, and the software and hardware capability. So I think that's how I visualize the dealerships of the future, how the dealerships should be equipped with such kind of things. And it's no more a showroom dialogue where you are having a brick and mortar setup in such kind of cases. But I think such things are more relevant for the customer, which they would be able to appreciate and create value for the 3S dealerships.
Interesting, very, very interesting, because it's a huge departure from what has happened so far in the automotive industry and anywhere across in the automotive industry, and more so in the commercial vehicle. because it's always been focused on the customer and the customer profitability, and it's the daily earning of the vehicle which is the key. The customers have always been a lot more involved with the products because we supply a product and it gets built upon, it gets added upon, and then it gets deployed in kind of a manner. So the involvement with the product is extremely high. Let me come to you, Sanjeev, with that thought that when that's the nature of the evolution that's happening on the products, how do you see the dealerships making sure that the customers stay sticky with the brand? How does the brand loyalty get built through that channel? Because that's the channel which delivers that daily profitability to the customer.
Thanks, Rajiv. So, Rajiv, before I talk about dealer, we should talk about what's happening to our customers. Today, our customers are, their needs are changing. They are no longer, talking about running those vehicles. They say they want to outsource everything to either dealerships or manufacturers, be it maintenance of the vehicle, even running of the vehicles. Today, customers are talking of, Sachin talked about per kilometer. They're talking of dry lease agreements with the manufacturer. They're talking of even, going away from financing. They're saying we need leasing options. Why do we carry any, debt in our balance sheet? So overall requirements of the customers are changing. And, let me talk specifically of a place, Mumbai. Customers are no longer interested in sending their vehicles to dealerships. So, dealership model has been evolving in the last few years. And when we come to, let's say, alternate technology, requirements in terms of how do you, kind of create that dealer workshop. We have seen in the past also, when CNG got introduced in Delhi, we had one or two mishaps also, and then we created those standards in terms of how dealerships are going to manage servicing of the vehicle. Now we are talking of hydrogen. It's highly inflammable, almost invisible. So kind of standards what we will need in terms of managing those vehicles are going to be different. And, we spoke about it in terms of how we approach to the customer. We are completely different than car industry. I think most important thing, what we need in our industry is personal engagement, personal touch, which customers, really kind of appreciate, and, that becomes the major selling point for us. So yes, I think, in coming times, our channel partner is going to play a very important and, significant role in how we move forward.
Thank you. I think both of you have touched two or three very, very important points. A, the technology that we are handling is completely different and it's progressing. Whether it's because of the alternate vehicles which go in, whether it's hydrogen or whether it's electric vehicles, either way, it's a major departure from what has happened in the past and major departure from what's happening in the rest of the industry possibly. The second is that the customer needs are changing completely. And let's talk about both these points separately. And there are different things that cause the customer's needs to change or requirements to change, whether it be the financial pressures required to grow into the, or it be the aids that they have through technology of the connected vehicles, which make, like you said, prognosis easier or the data points coming out of it easier. Let's talk about these two separately. So come to the first point of the changing technology and the new methods of working that have to be adopted, the pressures that these are going to create on the network environment. Sharvik, your views as to how you think that you will go about getting that many people of that caliber, people who you never experienced earlier, because we've been essentially a mechanical product all along. We've had a few electricians who understood electricals, but we've never had complex electronics of that nature built into it. Now, added to it, there's power electronics getting built into it, which can be life and death. It can really blow up a product if handled badly. What are your views as to how the network will actually cope with this kind of a pressure and requirement?
Yeah, thank you. So, I'll just try to continue from where Sanjeev ji said that we have to be, connected with our customer and close to him. And with these technological changes, if I look at the immediate future, we are looking at BS6 Part 2 coming in, and where your vehicle will be, emissions are going to be checked online, and already we have started facing these challenges, and eventually most of our mechanics have to have electrical knowledge to take care of these vehicles. And eventually with all these new energies, we have already seen CNG vehicles in our workshops. We are seeing LNG vehicles coming in very soon. The biggest challenge that we see in terms of balancing the new technologies, meeting the expectations of our customers, our network has to become more robust in terms of having the, another aspect to that is, earlier 10 years back, the warranties on the vehicles were a year or 2 years. Today we are giving 6-year warranties on the vehicle. So again, the dependency of, the primary network of the commercial vehicle, the dealerships, is again getting prominently important. So there is a huge investment that the dealer network will have to put in terms of not only network, but also the right kind of manpower, which is today a very important factor, because this is where we feel that as dealers, OEM should play an important part in creating these skilling teams or skilling efforts for our team. And secondly, the customers are also now needing at-site services. We have experienced that, and it has succeeded in us getting more volumes at our dealerships also. Today, the customer expects us to be at his doorsteps. They don't want to send their vehicles to the dealership. And they will prefer wherever the route is and wherever they feel this is their pit stop. We go there at their pit stop and give them services. So I think these are the factors that are eventually going to go. I remember in Ashok Leyland, we created something like a workshop on wheels, or we also came up with container workshops where we could go and place it at our dealer end and give them the service. I think these things are going to get more prominent. Our team will also need to be trained more on the technical aspects in terms of how to use new technologies. For example, earlier we had a tech tool that would go and check. Today we can do that from a mobile phone. In the earlier panel, we spoke over the air managing of the vehicles. Today, I think with OBD2 coming in soon, that can be a reality in terms of how we are able to manage. And we are equipping our technician with a break. Whenever they see a breakdown, we get it on the mobile and we know what are the error codes, and we are able to sort them out. So I think though these all investments are going to be there, my only question to the OEMs is that this is a very competitive market. Today, when we sell a vehicle, unlike a car industry, we know we have a 3.5% or 4% or 5% margin. Here, the rates are decided at the point of sale. And, we are always challenged on what is the margin that we are going to get. And overall, a dealer then depends upon we depend on our service absorption ratios for our dealership's profitability. Or, how we are able to add more features and add such services like AMCs and all to, get that more additional volumes. So I think overall, it is a time where the OEMs have to handhold us into this future, when newer technologies are going to be there. The customer is going to be more demanding. There's going to be more competition. So at the dealership end, we need to be ready for these changes. And I feel the OEMs also need to recognize that we are an important spoke into this whole system and need to work with us so that we are able to progress with them.
Thank you. Need for handholding to go forward in terms of retraining, etc., as well as maintaining profitabilities. And profitability is to come through aftermarket. I mean, if I summarize what you said. Jalaj, what's your take on that bit of handholding, especially on ensuring profitabilities through aftermarket and the new vehicle prices, like he said, being decided at the spot?
So firstly, Sharvik and I think everybody over here, can a CV OE do it all alone? The answer is absolutely no. So a CV OE dependence on the dealership is as much as the dealership dependence on any of the commercial vehicle OE. So, you are the extended arm with which we reach out to the market. So even if, let's say, hypothetically, even if a commercial vehicle manufacturer does not want it, the commercial vehicle manufacturer has no other choice but to handhold you and to make you as much future ready as the organization that itself is going to become, right? So that, I think, takes care of the bigger part that if you're trying to ask. The second part is the how part of it. The question which I want to pose to you and through you, Sharvik, to the dealership over here is that, are you in your mind willing to change and upgrade yourself? Because normally when we say technological advancement and all, it's a big mental barrier, that comes in our mind that technology has to be complex, has to be, more difficult or so. It may not be the case. So I'll just take one example, which you also touched, about connected vehicles, right? So today there is a need, as you rightly said, Sharvik, that a customer is expecting you to come to the vehicle instead of the vehicle coming to the workshop, right? Now imagine the vehicles running all over the place. It's going to be physically impossible for any dealership with any kind of mobile service van or the, wherewithals to reach each and every vehicle. So how do you do it? And that's where the technology comes into picture, right? So imagine having a telematics device and a control room whereby your service advisor tells proactively to the customer, hey, I think next 100 kilometers your truck is going to break down. So hold on, I'm going to send my team over there, which is going to, solve your problem. So customer is happy, you are happy, everybody is happy. So I think these are small little things which are very much doable, but it would also require a mindset change by the dealership as well. Because OEs, we are realizing that we need to change. And in case we don't change, we will become extinct, right? But if the dealership have to be fit and future ready, they will also have to change. And last point, I'm just summarize, money is ample and huge in after sales, right? It's a necessity of a customer. A customer spends, let's say, a 40 lakh rupee on a purchase of a truck and spend crores over the life cycle of the particular truck or particular bus, right? So it's a huge pool which is available. How much we want to dip into it and take out our pie, I think it's more a question at our end, not a question at the customer's end.
Very interesting. Mindset change is required in terms of going forward, and I think that's extremely important. My question to you, Mr. Arya, because you're handling probably the cutting-edge technology here, and what we need for this is, of course, the mindset change of the dealerships and the channel partners end, but also a completely different training and background of technicians who we've never hired earlier. Which means we just have to go out to possibly the training institutes, and they are not available. They will have to be created. What is the industry going to do about creating such people at the core level, which are then ready for a dealership to take on? And do you have any plans for addressing that?
Sure. So first of all, I would like to touch upon, I think, one point Shavik mentioned about the scenario changing where there is no certainty about the margins also in this case. So EV, at least what we stand for, and as one of the key players in the electric bus segment today, we have understood that after engaging with all our customers, and that's something which is our USP, is that every vehicle is customized to the T for the end consumer. So there's no standard product. And that's where the customer is willing to pay you premium. And that's something where you understand and see that technology drives value and complexity leads to profitability, not the other way around. So, and when you understand that, at the same time you see, so we have personally built multiple skill development centers. We have partnered with multiple institutions across the country to see that now we have a workforce of more than 5,000 people only on the after sales side across the country for all our vehicles. So the key is, how are you able to address the customer, and you don't talk about a percentage as 100% uptime with predictive analytics and diagnostics, which we are looking at. And whilst doing so, what we've also tried to understand that there is a lot of talent available, and today we always look at automotive sector. So since I come from a diversified conglomerate, so we see that from the renewable sector, from the power sector, railway sector, people understand high voltage, people understand power, people understand electroelectronics very well. And there is definitely challenge to see that there may not be as many people what we may need, but at least I would say 50 to 60% of people from the automotive sector and the rest from the other sectors could be put together to bring in the right mix of talent pool on the mechanical and electroelectronic side. And today the biggest challenge lies is that majority of the people see that the low voltage electrical is electroelectronics and high voltage power electronics, whereas there are two different worlds altogether. There's no connection at all. and it's not something linked to mechatronics. So I think the skill set and understanding the requirement, like today we see that in next 3 to 4 years we need 100,000 people only for our set of vehicles. So how are we ensuring that our dealer partners of different kinds as well as our own organization is getting equipped to service not only in India but many other geographies, and how are you addressing the customers' needs remotely and locally? So that is only done where you are able to clearly see that how more and more is being transferred to local players, our dealers, and whether 1S, 2S or 3S, where they're able to take more and more and clearly understand that the customer needs is being very different in every case. And in certain cases, people talk about volumes, that if we do not have volumes, how do we look at it? But now we see that there is a tremendous enhancement in volume. We launched our electric vehicles amongst one of the first or the first 6 years back, almost 7 years back in 2016. So from then to now, I think people have clearly understood that how things are changing and evolving. And there has been a lot of investment which has been made by many players in Europe, what I have seen recently in a country like Israel, where technology redundancy was a challenge, especially for electric mobility in electric buses and other areas, and how they have been able to overcome it by really seeing that they're investing on a constant basis and really seeing that how customer is able to make money out of their investments in technology by ensuring his profitability. So I think these are certain points which I would like to bring about, and I think each dealership should see that collectively or individually, depending on the size, could set up dojo centers in all the regions where OEMs and dealerships could really collaborate and work together. And also some of the tier ones which are producing batteries, power electronics would also be part of that collaborative effort where they could develop the whole workforce going forward.
Got it. So completely different technology for power electronics, being very different from mechatronics and light electronic technicians that we've handled earlier, working collaboratively with the dealers because you're going down to tier 1 and tier 2 cities. Mr. Nijawan, your thoughts of it, because you're also in the same kind of a thing and you're taking it forward probably a lot more aggressively in now. So.
Yeah, so I think we all have been talking a lot about technology, EV will come, hydrogen will come, and so on and so forth. I think the biggest challenge which we have today is, which Nishant was talking about, is you need people to service this technology. But technology is double-edged sword, right? It helps you, but then you need skilled people. Nobody can just go and touch an electric bus and, put it up. So that's where we already on our own are doing, having certain training centers. We're putting wherever we're getting orders in a good quantity. But we are also now collaborating with our dealers so that we have to have people, a pool of people. Like for one bus, you need 2.3 kind of driver and 1.7 kind of a mechanic come electrician. So 4 people for one bus because it's running in shifts and all. Imagine if 10,000 buses are sold, 40,000 people, kahan se aayenge? So it has to be a collaborative effort, and that's what I said in the beginning, that we are not interested, and we are lucky enough to have dealers and dealerships with brick and mortar. Where we would like to spend is on educating the customer and training the manpower. I think these two are the key focus areas for us at the operational level. We do have another big challenge on EV side as of now is of finance, because most of the orders are on gross cost contract, exactly. Which is, I mean, we can sell so many buses on GCC, but because the cost of the product is very high, financiers are now trickling in. But that's a problem at manufacturer and finance end. But at the dealership side, I think the two challenges will be upgradation and basically upgradation of manpower. Tools can be bought overnight, that's not a problem. But the biggest challenge for us is to upgrade the people, and we are already working on it. Hence, from day one, we have kept services with our dealer and, routing through them, because luckily they have pool of people who are trained on electronics and mechanical side of whatever is there in the bus. We need to upgrade them, which we are already doing wherever we are.
Thank you. So obviously, new people and creating this set of pool is going to be one of the challenges to work together. I want to just move on to what's happening also in the industry from the external pressures. A lot has been said already about the alternate fuels. I mean, we are, as a commercial vehicle industry, seen as a polluting lot. We aren't that polluting, but we are looked at as polluting because we're most visible. We're on the roads, right? And then you see the big truck, they say that's what's causing the pollution. You can look at Delhi and say now with satisfaction it wasn't us. Because we've cleaned up, but the Delhi Air still hasn't. But with these alternate vehicles, I mean, Sanjeev, a question to you. At your stall at the Auto Expo, you've got 4 alternate vehicles. You've got LNG, you've got CNG, you've got a hybrid, you've got a pure EV. How is this going to span out? And if there are hydrogen-fired engines, for example, or a hydrogen-fed fuel stack that comes in, like the one that you've got on your truck today, how's this going to impact the nature of businesses in the dealership environment? Because a lot of this, again, like Mr. Nijavan said, are probably going to shift to cross-cost contracts. They're going to shift, take it much further away from, let's say, the AMC contracts, which Arvic's already operating. So it's a 2-step forward.
So Rajiv, I would say that, it's very exciting right now. You have many technologies which are available off the shelf. And we as a manufacturer, we had our own learning. We saw how things changed, quickly from, probably India was the one country where the change of BS3 to BS6 was very, fast. Even now we understand, how government is under pressure to reduce our fossil fuel costs. And that's where, almost all manufacturers, they are ready with these technologies. The larger question is again, about ecosystem, about the infrastructure, about the cost. Today we get to meet a lot of customers who want to create their ESG footprints, and they come and talk about, we have seen some orders have also started trickling in for buses, with some big conglomerates. But fact of the matter is, the costs are so high. And, even now as we speak, financiers, they're yet to kind of look at funding these assets. They've made just a beginning in terms of funding those EV cars. But when it comes to, asset which is probably going to cost you 2 crores or 1.5 crores, that's a big challenge. So even, when Sachin was talking about it, you need to create a company to run those vehicles. And ultimately, you need you need someone to fund those vehicles. So to me, we are all making progress in terms of getting ready with the technology. There are other factors, Nishant, probably the cost of the batteries, as your numbers grow, probably cost of batteries will come down, the kind of batteries we are using. So there are many, I would say there are many variables which are still playing in the industry. And to be honest, nobody knows what's right and, what's going to happen. And we all will wait. Some announcement will happen from government and, suddenly, you'll see a change. Even on CNG, if you see, CNG was there in places like Delhi and Bombay, and suddenly, it started going all across from north to west and then to south also. And then we saw the price differential between CNG and diesel, it went away. And now, we as a manufacturer, we created huge capacities, but the requirements, the demand levels have come down drastically. So these are some of the challenges, but yes, I think we need to be ready with all the possible options, and then we need to see how, things span out.
So in most of the manners that we've discussed, we are extremely different from the rest of the automotive industry. I mean, I don't think anybody else talks about things that you guys have just spoken about. And yet we are so heavily impacted by the government policies. Question to you, Jalaj. Do you think that your representation as a lobby for a commercial vehicle industry to the government needs to really break out from what's traditionally been the automotive lobby and have a stronger lobby there? Or are you happy with going the way it is? Sorry, it's like a...
I think commercial vehicle lobby can do definitely much more. We need to.
And that can be an ask to FADA as well, right?
Yeah, that can be asked, because, at this point of time, there are 9 type of fuels which are possible on a vehicle. 9, right? Is there a roadmap? Answer is no. I mean, which one? So somebody, it's like, taking a bet. So somebody's betting on hydrogen, somebody's betting on LNG, somebody's betting on EV, So if your question is, can something be done, should something be done? I'll say absolutely yes. Absolutely yes.
We should put this together.
Yeah.
finally, I think just to wrap up, Sharvik, top two asks that you would have from the OEMs as a dealer.
I'll just continue to ask from what Sanjeev and Jalaj just said, that since we really in the future don't know what exactly is going to be the fuel of the future, the biggest cost or the biggest investment that the dealer today is making is on stocks. And I think in the coming future, if the CV industry takes a lead and talks about market shares based on retail, I think it will help us balance our stocks at our end as well. And eventually, it will also help us in understanding how we are able to serve the market better. So I think that is one ask that we request for OEMs to consider. And second, of course, is a regular training and handholding, looking at the changing environment that we have. As I said, we are the most demanding sector where it is the three of us, the trifecta, that is the customer, the OEM and us. We have to work together to understand their need, since it's a B2B business, and come out with the most viable solution for all of us. So that's the win-win. You know, as it is said, a friend of mine very nicely puts it, that whatever we plan for, Asmani or Suleimani, uske upar kuch nahi ho sakta. The Asmani is like act of God. COVID happened and we were all vulnerable. And Suleimani is the act of the government. So that is something that suddenly, you know, in commercial vehicle, axle load norms changed. And suddenly we saw that there was a good momentum and that momentum broke. So yes, these are certain vulnerabilities. And that's where the OEMs need to work with us so that we are able to survive and serve the customer better.
Thank you, Sharvik, and thank you, gentlemen, for your participation. Obviously, times are changing, we're evolving, and one thing we know is the future is very different from the past. A little unpredictable, the way it's actually going to go, but hand-holding, working collaboratively together is probably the ask, and definitely a need for a stronger lobby for the CV segment within the government. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, speakers, for your excellent deliberations on the future of commercial vehicles. I'd like to now invite Mr. Nikunj Sanghi, past President FADA, and Mr. Sachin Mahajan, Chairperson FADA Maharashtra, to please come on stage and request them to kindly felicitate our speakers for the session. May I request you all to pose for a group photograph?